So as always, pause the video whenever you need to, make sure you've got everything ready, make sure you're sat nicely on a chair with something to lean on, and we're good to go. So like before, we've got our 3-3 writing ladder. Yesterday we thought about prepositions, and we're going to focus on a range of sentence structures today. Now, hopefully you've watched Ms. Copeland's video on this, so it shouldn't be completely new, but I am going to show you how to use it in a different context. So, what kind of sentence structures should we be using? We've got a simple. So that's one main idea. It must contain a verb and a noun. Hopefully you can remember that a verb is a doing word, it's an action. A noun is a thing, it's an item, it's a person, it's a place. So our school is called English Martyrs. Simple sentence. So a compound sentence where we're joining two ideas, two clauses together. Now, usually they make sense on their own and they're joined with a coordinating conjunction, or sometimes we like to call them a fanboy, and we'll look into those a little bit later on. So if you can see in this example, we've used and. It has lots of wonderful children. And the third one is a complex sentence. So that has at least two clauses. It might have more. One main clause, like we used in the compound and simple. So it can stand alone, it makes sense on its own. But this one also has a subordinate clause. Now this subordinate clause does not make sense on its own. And hopefully you can see that in this example. Because the teachers are so lovely, the children are so well behaved for them. So our main clause is the children are so well behaved for them. Makes sense? The subordinate clause is the one with the conjunction in. Because the teachers are so lovely. It doesn't make sense on its own, so it needs that main clause to go with it. So there are some examples of some conjunctions here. So we've got the fanboys, which are the coordinating conjunctions used in compound sentences: for and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And then the subordinating conjunctions for the complex sentences. Now, there are loads and loads of coordinating conjunctions, so you might be able to think of much more than what I've shown you in this picture. But just some examples for you to get your brain ticking. So let's begin our SPaG. Tell somebody or remind yourself what we mean by simple, compound and complex sentences. So maybe without kind of going back, skipping back, can you give a definition of a simple? Can you give an example? Same for compound, same for complex. Could you then think of maybe some other coordinating and subordinating conjunctions? Could you have a go at finding some different sentence structures in books that you've got at home? So you might want to pause the video here. So I've got a little bit of text and I've actually already underlined the conjunctions for you, but what I would like you to think about is the different sentence structure that it makes it. So for the first one, we've got whilst. Whilst the sun set over the sleepy rooftops, the pigeons in their cosy nests cooed. I want you to think, what kind of sentence is that? Is it a simple, compound, or complex? And then I wonder if you could do that for the other sentences as well. So we've got a complex to begin with. The next one has but, so that makes it a compound. The next sentence doesn't have any conjunctions, so it's a simple. Then the good folk of the town, and that makes it a compound. And then the last sentence we've used until, so hopefully you thought that was a complex sentence. So I'm going to see if you can now write your own paragraph using a range of sentence structures about the light room where this last ray of light is. So I've written a little bit of an example to get you started, and what I tried to do was use an example of each. I've got a simple sentence, a compound, and a complex. Because when we say a range, it doesn't mean that every single sentence is going to have a subordinating conjunction, or it doesn't mean that every sentence is going to be a compound sentence, or every sentence is going to be a simple sentence. You want to mix it up. It depends on kind of what you're writing. It depends on the effect that you're trying to create as a writer. But you want a little bit of variety. So in my example, the remaining ray of light shot through the glass window and found itself in the light room of English martyrs. Because of the impressive glass windows, the room always welcomes light with open arms. It is such a special place for us all. So you might want to pause and have a go at writing your own paragraph using a range of sentence structures. So we have spoken about this interesting trick before. Hopefully you've noticed that in my complex sentences, sometimes I'm using a comma, but sometimes I'm not. So that comma is really important to mark the clause. And what we can do is we can swap those clauses around, and it helps us give us a bit of a reminder of where the comma needs to go. So in the first example here, we've got the subordinating conjunction at the start of the sentence. Now, because it's at the start, we need to use a comma to mark the end of that clause. Whilst the sun set over the sleepy rooftops. Now that bit doesn't make sense on its own, that's the subordinate clause. So we're going to put a comma in. The pigeons in their cosy nests cooed, and that's the main clause, it makes sense. So what you can then do is swap the clauses around, like you can see. And this time I haven't got a comma because I've got the conjunction in the middle. Let's have a look at this example as well. Again, we've got a comma in the first one to mark the clause. And the second, we've got the subordinate clause at the end, so we don't need the comma. I wonder if you could have a go at some of the sentences that you've already written. See if you can swap the clauses around, put the comma in the right place. Maybe you could even have a go with the compound sentences, and hopefully you will notice that you can't swap the clauses. You don't need a comma, you can't swap the clauses. They both make sense on their own, so they stay as they are. So now's your chance to use a range of sentence structures effectively in your own writing. You might continue a piece that you've already started. You might continue this narrative that we've started together. It's completely up to you. But I really want you to think about the effect that you're trying to create. Why did you use a simple sentence? Why did you then choose to use a complex sentence? You might do a few simple sentences followed by a few complex sentences, but every kind of writing decision should be for a reason. So, can you manipulate? You might need to pause the video now. Hopefully, you have a good understanding of what manipulate means, and you've got some strategies of how you can improve your writing. So I've done an example here to show you. Our school is called English Martyrs. Now there's nothing wrong with that sentence, but I can think of lots of different ways of how I can improve it. So firstly, I've added in some adjectives to describe a noun, our school, vibrant and inclusive. I've then added in that preposition in to give a little bit more detail of the position. Where is our school? It's in Long Eaton. I've then got but, so I've added a coordinating conjunction, and then we've got that second clause as well. It is the children and teachers that make it so special. So lots of different ways in just that one sentence that I have improved. And there we go, we've done. So I've added another link there for a BBC Bite-sized link, which is about conjunctions. It's got some games, some activities that you might want to have a go on there as well. But well done everybody, see you soon.